So we have been in this series called Possible, and we've been talking about all of the things that we, from our perspective, look at and think is impossible, but God just keeps proving us wrong, and he's ready to prove you wrong. So something that I know that can feel impossible sometimes is motherhood and parenthood in general. So this morning we've decided to do something a little different. We are going to be asking one of the wisest people I know.
This is why I agreed to come up here, so Maya would be nice to me.
Seriously, she is just such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and just is such a great mother and inspiration herself. And so we're going to be asking Sarah a few questions this morning because Pace made her or something.
Yeah, let's be honest. Pace isn't here. So I felt like Mother's Day would mean that I could skip church and stay home and eat breakfast on my porch. And he felt like Mother's Day meant that I got to be up here.
Yes.
So
Yes.
here I am.
So here we are.
Yes.
But I just want to encourage you, even if you are not a mom, God has a word for you today. So lean into this. We've been so blessed the last two services to hear what Sarah has had to say about all these things. And I guarantee you, if your heart is open, you're going to walk away with something valuable today. So for this first question, moms wear multiple hats. You have a bunch of kids. You help here at one place, and you homeschool. How do you stay refreshed and encouraged and avoid burnout?
Man, this is a real thing. I think women struggle with this. I'm not a man, so I can't answer for the men, but I know that moms do in particular, or just women in general. We look at other women and we say, how does she do all of that? And then we feel inadequate, right? Am I right? Right. Like Instagram is not really our friend in that. You know, you look at Instagram and you're like, Joanna Gaines does everything. No, she doesn't. That's the secret. I don't do everything. Nobody can do everything. I've picked a few things that I am really passionate about, and that's what I do, and I don't do a lot of other things. And so I think just knowing my limits, what can I do? What can I do well? When I go to bed at night and I lay down and I think, did I spend my day doing the things that mattered the most to what I'm passionate about? Then if I did, then that was a good day. But I can't do everything. And I think comparison, I forget who said it. I feel like maybe C.S. Lewis, but maybe not. Somebody said comparison is the thief of joy. And when we're looking at somebody else, my kids are swimmers, and they tell them when you're swimming, do not look to the right or left because races are won in like hundredths of seconds. And if I, as a mom or as a wife or as just a woman in general, am looking at what other people are doing, I'm going to miss my own race. And so I think that's the first thing. I'm not going to get burned out because I'm not trying to do all the things. And on a practical level, I have a quiet time every day, like pretty much every day since about 13, when my mom started making me have one because I was so snotty. And she was like, every morning you're going to read something in the Bible and you're going to write about it in your journal, and I'm going to check it. And I won't read what you wrote, but I am going to check. And this is for real. I still have this journal. My first journal entry, I hate my mom. She's so mean. And we laugh about it now. But it actually instilled a habit in me that has been my saving grace for decades. And, I don't say that because I am super spiritual. I have a quiet time because I am not super spiritual. And if I don't spend some time like first up, top of the morning, and it's early before all my people are awake, then I'm not as nice the rest of the day. Yeah. Sometimes I need more than one quiet time. But yeah, I just, I make some time for that. And I think understanding your personality and what feeds your own heart matters. If you need some downtime every day, figure out how you can make that happen. If you need to be out with people who have all of their teeth and don't wear diapers, figure out how to make that happen, because as a parent, you are sowing in a really deep level in some people who are looking to you. Right. And if you don't have anything to give them, that's tragic. You don't have to give them more than what you're equipped to be, but you got to give them what you have. And so for me, that is getting enough sleep, and it's doing a few things outside of my kids so that I am still a happy person. And so I would just say take care of your own needs, not at anybody else's expense, but just remember this is a marathon. You know, you're going to do this for a really long time. You can't burn out early.
Yeah, so good.
You don't do everything, but you do a lot. And in that, you're co-parenting. And so what are some of the things that Pace has done that has been the most helpful to you?
Pace is not here. This is so fun. And this service isn't online, so I could just say whatever I want. And if I make you all swear to secrecy. Do you want the true answer? Like, really, what Pace does that helps me the most? He just lets me do what I want a lot of the time. He didn't in the beginning. How many of you are familiar with the Enneagram? Okay, quite a few of you. So the Enneagram, if you're not familiar, it's an ancient personality test that has recently, in the last couple years, become very popular, if a personality test can be popular. And so what it is your personality. You take the test, and then it gives you a number, 1 to 9, and your number kind of describes who you are. So for those of you who are familiar, Pace is an 8, which the name of the 8, each one has a name, is the challenger. And it's like the leader. It's a strong personality. And since he's not here, I can tell you it's like a bossy personality.
I just have to out Caitlin and say that Caitlin's an 8.
Caitlin is an 8.
Nice 8s out there. I would like to say.
Pace is a nice 8, but man, he likes to be in control. Well, here's the problem with that. I'm a 1, which is the perfectionist, and it's kind of like the firstborn temperament of, I can do it, just let me do it by myself, which a 1 and an 8 are a challenge together. And so for like the first 10 years, we kind of had to figure out, because he wanted to control everything, and I'm like, don't tell me what to do, I got it. And so it took a lot of arguing for about 10 years before we figured out how to make this work. And so there are some decisions we absolutely make together. But if I tell him I want to redecorate the bedroom, Lord bless him, he's like, whatever you want to do is fine. And so I would say that has helped me tremendously. He trusts me, so I have a lot of freedom to make a lot of the less important decisions, which makes me happy. And he brings me dark chocolate. He picks up the kids from practice.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Speaking of help, we have some co-hosts we would like to invite up with some questions of their own. I think you're used to answering quite a bit of their questions.
Let's give them a warm welcome.
Yes. This is 75% of my kids. Our oldest is with Pace. He's almost 18. But these are the other 3. And before this morning, I had no idea what they were going to ask me. I just told them, you have to have a question. Know what it is. Don't tell me. And so then I thought we were good after the first service. And then somebody changed their question second service. And I about fell out of my chair. So I don't know really what's going to happen. But will you introduce yourself? Will you say your name and how old you are?
My name is Sarah Grace, and I'm 6.5.
Sarah Grace, she's 6.5. Do you have a question for me? Yeah?
Yes. Why did you come up with the idea of homeschooling us?
Oh, geez, this kid, 3 questions, 3 services. I never know what she's going to ask. Last service, she asked me if we were going to have a 5th child. And I was like, no, we're not. She asked, why did I come up with the idea to homeschool? Man, that's a complicated question. We don't have time for that whole answer.
Yes, we do.
But,
Tell me.
oh my goodness. This is why we have 4 children. Right here, I wanted 6, and then I had her and thought, you know what, that's a lot of personality in one body. It's like 6.
Why do you want 6?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so homeschooling. I just felt like the Lord kind of impressed that upon us when our oldest was little. And by the grace of God, we've made it pretty much all the way through. He has 1 more class to graduate, and we've done it. But I can't talk about that because I did last service, and I literally started crying in the middle of service. So we can't talk about my oldest graduating, but there you are. Addie, we're moving to you before she says anything else.
Okay. My question for you is,
Wait, tell them how old you are.
my name's Addison, and I'm 13. My question for you is, what's your favorite thing about being a mom?
My favorite thing about being a mom is you guys, hands down. I love each one of you. I love your different personalities. I love that we're a team. That's why I wanted 6. Is it like you're like a team when you have a bunch of kids? You know, we're like Team Hartfield. And as we look at one of our team members graduating, it's a little heart-wrenching to think that the team is going to change. And so I like having my people, and you guys have been a delight. Gray?
My name's Grayson, and I'm 14, and my question is, who's your favorite kid?
You are my favorite, and you are my favorite, and you're my favorite. Our oldest actually texted me during one of the services and said, Happy Mother's Day. And I said, thank you to my favorite firstborn child. And he texted back, and he was like, let's be honest, I'm your favorite. And they all think they're my favorite. But I really don't have a favorite, I promise. Okay, you're excused now. You have to go. Thank you. Someone take her back.
Let's give him a round of applause.
I'm sweating now.
Oh,
jeez.
What a wild card.
Man, you never know.
Girl.
Somebody told me when I was pregnant with our fourth, somebody, and I don't know who it is, I've never remembered so that I can call them. They said, oh man, your fourth will be so easy. That fourth child just goes with the flow. That is not true.
She might be an 8.
Lie. She is like an 8+.
Yeah.
There's a lot to her.
Oh, for
Oh my
sure.
goodness.
All right. So for this next question, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I've had a lot of friends go through this. But infertility is a big deal. And as we've been talking through this possible series, I'm sure that it comes to mind for a lot of couples, whether you faced it or you're in the middle of it right now. So is that something that you can speak to?
I have not struggled with infertility, but I have a very close family member who did for the better part of a decade, and our family had to walk through that together with all of its ups and downs. And so I would say that hope is really hard to sustain for a long time. And so whether your struggle is having a baby or you've got a wayward child or a spouse who is not on the same page with you, there are just a lot of things in our lives that can be heartbreaking, And whether it relates to parenting or not, I think just the roller coaster of hope and not wanting to hope and having your hopes dashed can be really wearing on people. And a long time ago, I found this verse. I'm going to read it to you. It's from Psalm 37. It's verses 3 and 4. Hands down, my favorite verses in the Bible. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And depending on your translation, where it says dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness, it can also say feed on his faithfulness. And that just struck me a long time ago, and so I'm going to show you my Bible. I hope you can see this. I've never actually asked after the services if anybody can see these, but look really close. I'm glad you can't see really close, because what those actually are, those are my deepest, most heart-wrenching prayer requests. The first one goes back to 1995. And these are like the big things. These are the things that I don't necessarily talk about out loud because they're that hard, and there's a lot of them. And some of them were answered exactly how I wanted, and some of them were answered really differently, and some still haven't been answered yet. But feed on his faithfulness. I think whatever it is that we're hoping for, if we hope for something and literally place our hope on having another baby or a cure for this diagnosis or a restored relationship or whatever, the Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick. And when our hopes are just constantly dashed, and that's what all of our hope and joy and security are in, is this one thing, it can literally make us heart sick. And so I would say whatever it is that you are waiting for, take those words to heart. Feed on God's faithfulness. I wrote these verses down because I wanted to see the answers. And it's so fun today to see some of the answers because I have all 4 of my kids were written. This church was written in 2005 when we first started praying about, God, are you calling us to do this? And he said no for like 9 years. And it was very up and down, particularly for Pace. And so it's so fun to see there's a name and there's a location, and here we are. And so sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's no, and sometimes it's not yet. But if my hope is on the answer, I'm going to be a mess, And so whatever it is, put your hope in God, and that's a hard thing to do. That's not a glib answer. I've walked through some really hard things where I thought, I don't know if this answer's ever going to come. Or the answer came and I didn't like it. And so if you can, every day, read that verse and tell yourself, God, I'm going to hope in you today. No matter how the situation turns out, you are still good. Whether you do or whether you don't, you are still good. And then I'm unshakable. And I think that's a better place to live, because whether it's infertility or something else, this won't be your last battle. I will have other things to write down on this page, because that was, the last one wasn't my last battle. And we have to have our hope in something bigger than the things that we want.
Yeah, there are so many stages of the ups and downs of parenthood, starting from the choice to start a family, and then all the way through when you're questioning your choice of starting your family, like the middle school years. Can you help some of our parents out who dragged their junior hires here and are at their wits' end with that?
Oh, man. No. We have 2 middle schoolers. We've had middle schoolers every day for 7 years. Somebody in my house has been in middle school. And I have 1 more year. And then I have like a 6-year break. Although Sarah Grace is sort of like a 6-year-old middle schooler. And so, no, I'm right there in the trenches with you. And I was a middle school teacher for 2 years. And I retired at the age of 25. I told Pace, this is not resigning. Like, I am retiring. I cannot ever do this again. These people are crazy. God bless middle school teachers who enjoy their jobs. I didn't realize I was actually going to have middle schoolers. Like, that never clicked. And we've got 2 kids who are 1.5 years apart, and so they're just in it together. So if I look tired, that is because I am tired. They are hard. And the thing that is helping me through is to just really remember back what middle school was like. I mean, don't you guys remember middle school? Middle school is hard. Your hormones are crazy, and kids are mean, and your brain says one thing and your body says another, and boys do dumb things in middle school, like really dumb things. And our motto, for real, this is a legitimate thing in our house, is don't do dumb things. That is rule number 1 for my middle school boys. One's in high school now, so his brain is growing, like the frontal lobe is developing, and it's better. But for my middle schooler, I don't see him. I hope he's not still in here. But every day, Grayson, don't do dumb things. Jumping off the roof, that's dumb. Lighting firecrackers under your brother's door, that's dumb. Don't do dumb things, because I know your brain is telling you to do this. Don't listen to it. Don't do dumb things. So I just try to sympathize with them and pray for them. And I just know that middle school doesn't last forever. That's all I got. It's hard. It's not my favorite.
So good. So mom guilt is a real thing. I know that I've experienced this. This is like a common one of like, do I work or do I stay at home? Well, I've done both, and I've experienced mom guilt in both situations. Like, so unfair, right? You think that if you change something, it's gonna like fix the mom guilt problem, but it doesn't. So, do you struggle with mom guilt? And if you do, how do you cope?
Yeah, I'm a mom, therefore I guilt, right? Raise your hands if you're a parent. Mom or dad, raise them high. This is going to bless somebody to see your answer, okay? Now, keep your hand up if you ever feel parental guilt. We got new hands, like new people stuck their hands up.
We get new hands every time.
We're at like 110%. We all feel parental guilt. And I would say on the one thing, the fact that you feel guilty means you're a good parent. That means you care, because terrible parents don't care, right? So if you feel guilty, okay, take a deep breath, that your heart is in the right place. On the other side, the Bible says there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. God's design for us is not to live in guilt. And so if you are feeling guilty about a choice you're making that you can change, right? If you yelled at your kids 10 times in the last 48 hours, that might be something you want to work on. Grayson said I should have said yes to that, and I punched him. But I don't think I actually yelled at him. He's in middle school. He can handle it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I was 5 or less, but I have to give him angry eyebrows all the time. But if it's something that you can change, that you continually feel like I am dropping the ball in this area and I know I can do better, do better. Figure out what it is that you need to work on that thing. Make that your goal. Resource yourself. You don't want to look back in 30 years and be like, I just yelled at my kids for 20 years straight and I should have not done that. Like, work on that thing. But if it's something you can't change, if you have to work and you feel guilty about it, you can't change it. It's okay. Drop it. There are no perfect parents. There aren't. And, I look at Jesus, and he wasn't a parent, but he was Jesus. And he had 12 disciples, and one of them betrayed him, and one of them denied him multiple times, and 9 others ran away in his time of need. Only one stayed with him. So if you're sitting here, and Mother's Day can be hard. Mother's Day is like a pretty holiday, but really it's a gritty one because motherhood is hard. But there are people who want to be moms and can't be moms, or they are moms and their kids have gone astray, or they feel like they're failing all the time, or they've lost a child. Like, motherhood is hard, and it's a really long haul. Don't beat yourself up about the things that you can't change. Know that God called you to be your kid's parent. If he wanted somebody else to raise your kids, he would have given them to somebody else. Like, he knew what was going to happen. You are equipped, and you are chosen, and you are called, and you just walk in that, and you do the best that you can with what you have. And even if your kids think you're a terrible parent right now, they don't know. They're not parents, right? Someday they're going to look back and be like, you did the best you could with what you had. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, you just have to let the guilt go. You can't walk in guilt and be free at the same time. And when you let the guilt go, I think then you become a better parent. But yes, everybody feels it all the time, and it will kill you if you give into it.
I know something that has helped me with that is getting in community with other moms. Like, it changed the game for me. So what can you speak to that as far as not just moms getting in community, but just like as people in general? Like, we were made for community, but how has that benefited you and helped you as a mother?
Well, we say it here at one place, and it's everything we say is born out of something. We say we're better together. And that's because when Pace and I started this church, it was just the two of us, and we were like, we need some more people. We are better together. And I think parenting is one of those things that we need. We need a support group around us, And I told you I'm a 1, and I just like to do things my own way. But not parenting. It's too hard to do it all on my own. I need other people's perspective when I feel like I'm dropping the ball. Or I've got a group of girlfriends that we go back decades. Some of us go back before kids. And we will very lovingly call each other out in a good way if we're like, I know you can do this. You can do this. Don't give up now. You've got this. Or, you're a good mom and your kid's crazy. Just don't worry about it. Like, you need somebody around you who can encourage you in the trenches. And if you don't have that community, you've got to actively seek it out. And I know that loneliness is a real thing, too. When I was a brand new mom, I didn't have anybody. My mom lived over 1,000 miles away. I was the first of all of my friends to have a kid. And then Kaden, our oldest, had an emergency life-saving surgery at 5 weeks old. And really, the year just went downhill from there. It was a terrible first year. It's amazing that we have other children. There is a 3-year gap on purpose because I was like, that just about killed me. And I didn't have that community. And I think looking back, if I had had some good friends to walk through that with me, it would have been better. And so seek it out. Make some friends. Find some people. Go to the park. There are moms there. If you have little kids, you'll meet them. But you cannot do this alone.
And get in a group. Sorry, this is totally like off topic, but I met my mom tribe or whatever you want to call them in a one-place group. And it was a group that we were asked to lead that honestly, I didn't want to lead. Like, can I just be real and say that we were called to lead a group and I didn't want to, but we did it anyway, and God blessed us for it and gave us great community for it. So that's my plug for groups.
Yep. It can take a while to build that kind of a community where you have face-to-face people. Do you have more resources that you've leaned on when you've been in between times of finding face-to-face people to talk to?
I do. When I was in that early phase with Kaden, I found an author whose name is Sally Clarkson, and she's still writing books today. And in the years, I've actually gotten to know her. And she was a tremendous resource to me because she was a mom of 4, actually. And she's about my mom's age, so she was way ahead of me in experience. And she was not a real life face-to-face friend, but man, I underlined those books. I give her books. I gave one of her books to Maya when she had her first. And so she's marvelous. Kevin Lehman is a child psychologist. He's a Christian. He is great for talking about the ages and stages of your kids. He wrote a book called Planet Middle School, because it's like another planet. And so I would really recommend him. And then if you go out these doors and you go around, we have an orange wall. And on the orange wall are a whole bunch of parent resources for the different ages and stages of your kids. And those are available for purchase. And then I'll put on our One Place Facebook page some other authors or podcasters or something that have really encouraged me in the journey, because I think we can all use a little bit of help in that.
There's so many things and people that we lean on for encouragement. One thing that you spoke to me before that really stood out to me was that you had to come to a point where you decided that you will not complain about the things that you cannot change. And that will transform your motherhood, that will transform your family, but that will transform every aspect of your life. And so when you take that was advice that I think is some of the most valuable to me. I could sit here all day and keep asking you questions. That's a question that wasn't even for up here. That was my own personal, Sarah, please help me session. But last question as the band comes up and we have to wrap all this goodness up. 30 years from now, your children will be grown adults and they'll be in the trenches of their own in life. And when you look back on your legacy, what do you want that to be as a mother?
I want my kids to know that no matter what they become or who they become or anything that they ever do, that dang it, I cried in the last service too, and I was like, what is happening to me? Oh, man. But I am so profoundly grateful for them. No matter what. It doesn't matter to me. They can all grow up and become convicts. I will still love them. I will probably have some mom guilt, but I'm just so grateful for them. I'm grateful for the privilege of getting to raise kids. It's an honor. It's a high calling, and it is hard, but it's been an honor. And I want them to know that I cared about it with my whole heart, that I did the very best job that I could do with what I had. But even above that, I would want them to know that I loved Jesus with everything I had, and that I loved their dad for my whole life. Those are the things that matter. It doesn't matter what team they're on or what they're good at or what their academics are or SAT scores, and we're like in the thick of that. I've got a junior who's almost done, and it's really easy to lose your perspective and focus on those things. And I think when your kids are good at something, it's easy to feel like you're winning. And then when your kid is not good at something, you're like, I don't know what to do with this. And those are not the things that matter. Nobody ever goes to a parent's funeral and says, man, my mom made sure I was great at soccer. That's not what they say. All that really matters is that my kids know that I love them deeply, no matter what, forever, and that I love Jesus. Those are the things that matter. If they can say that as when they are parents, they will be, I think, well equipped for parenthood. If they can say that I made the best cinnamon rolls on the planet, that would be okay too. Just being honest. Yeah, those are the things that matter. And if you're struggling today as a parent, or you're kind of in the trenches feeling like, when is my real life going to begin? All of the things that I think all of us struggle with as parents, I would say your real life is today. These kids are gifts. Now, they may be really difficult gifts. Sometimes they're really difficult gifts. But they are gifts. And when we take what God has given us, whatever it is, and we say thank you for it, and we do the best we can with what He has given us, He makes us better. Parenting, I think, might be the hardest thing I've ever done. Might be the hardest thing I ever do. I'm just trying to do the best that I can. I'm not perfect, and I mess it up all the time, and I have, all of these feelings of inadequacy and am I doing a good job, and these poor kids are going to be ruined for life, and, all these things. But at the end of the day, know that it's a high calling. Being a parent is a really high calling. And we can do this. We can do this together. I know we can.